Alex, thank you so much for coming on my podcast, The Winner's Paradigm, brother. I've been seeing you, and like I said, before we even started this podcast, and I'll keep it brief, so I don't hype you up too much before you go into the intro. You're an amazing fucking dude, and I see you every day on the stories. You're consistent. You're in the gym. You're being an amazing father. You have an amazing mission with your businesses and how you're helping your clients. So it's an honor to have you on the podcast, brother, and I really love the mission, everything that you're doing. So before I go too deep into it, like I said, would you mind giving us a brief intro, who you are, what you're passionate about today, brother?
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate you, dude. And I know, you know, it's before I get into that, I think what a beautiful time in history where like you can observe and watch people from a distance and then eventually connect with them and be able to build relationships. It's like no other time in history. You know what I mean? And I'm grateful for that because I've been able to meet amazing people like yourself and others in my journey, man. And like to think that, 15, 20 years ago, you couldn't do that. It was harder to do that. Yeah. I mean, you couldn't just come across people that were inspiring to you and be able to connect with them. So I'm grateful for that. And thank you for having me on. I'm honored, man. Um, so yeah, man, Alex Montros, I was just quick intro. Right now, presently, I'm a father of 5 kids. I've been married to my wife now for we're going on 11 years in March, and we have a blended family. So I have my two older kids. They are 22 and 19, and then I have a stepdaughter, 17, and we have two little ones, 9 and 7. So a lot of everything I do and really kind of talk about is really how to lead from the front. How do we as men step up in our calling to be exceptional when it comes to the way that we lead our marriages, lead our households, um, provide, right? Whether it's you owning a business or being the best employee. So that's, something that, a lot of my content will kind of tap into, as well as, recently, I think kind of stepping out a little bit more and, discussing, or not, I wouldn't say discussing, but sharing a little bit more of my foundation, which is my faith too. And so that's been a journey that I've been kind of progressively getting better at. And I don't know why it's been that way, to be quite honest. It's not that I've ever been ashamed of my faith. It's just I feel like culture, there's this pressures of culture and stuff. And so I've had to kind of put that noise aside and be like, no, man, this is who I am. And if people like it, cool. If they don't, that's okay too.
Love
But I
that, brother.
can't hide. There's no hiding that. You know what I mean? You got to boldly go and proclaim what you truly stand for and what you stand against. So that's kind of the present. But a little bit of the history is, I was raised in Vegas. Man, my mom passed at 7 or 6 years old. I have an older brother of mine that him and I went through just a lot. We were latchkey kids. We lost our house. We've been homeless. Um, I've also had good people come into my life that were helping me in that journey as a kid too. And so, the odds were really stacked against me growing up in the sense that, um, there was not a lot of promise, in what was like to be my future outside of what I believed my future could be. And that was at the time becoming a professional baseball player. That's what I wanted to do. Major leagues, I played baseball growing up, and in that journey of just sticking to like sports and being in baseball really kind of gave me a lot of, I think, it helped me in that journey where everything was very unstable. You know what I mean? Um, so yeah, so coming out of that, yeah, at the age of 20, got married to my ex-wife, and at that time, I actually have, I always say I have 5 kids, but I've really raised 8 in the last 20 plus years. And everybody thought I was nuts, man. They're like, "Man, you're gonna marry somebody with all, with some kids," and I did, man. And I'm very grateful for that experience. Obviously, I have my two older kids, and I'm very much part of my other kids' lives that obviously are no longer, but they still stay in touch with me. The oldest is 30 now.
It's awesome.
Um, and the youngest, I think she's just now 25, 26. So, but we're all very connected, which is awesome, man. Like they look at me as their dad pretty much because I was part of their journey for so many years. And so that was cool, man, to realize that even in all the mistakes I made in my 20s, because I didn't have my 20s like a traditional 20-year-old. I was literally raising a family of 5 by 23. So I don't know what it is to, like, go out and party and the frats, and I didn't do that. I went straight to, like, trying to provide, build, and be a family man from the very beginning. So, been doing this a long time. I've made a lot of mistakes, and now on the back end, I'm 43 now. I'm trying to now kind of help others realize some of their, the mistakes I've made, so that they don't have to make those same mistakes, and also share with them some of the wins and how to also like celebrate those wins in their own journey, knowing that being a father and a man is it literally is a journey, and you are not perfect, and you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to have to carry through and keep pressing forward. So that's just a little bit about myself, on the personal side, and then obviously business and all that. There's all sorts of stuff going on
Amen, brother. And
there.
you know what? I love that. We'll talk about the faith as a second thing, but I want to commend you first, and definitely saying, how you got married young and that. I did the same thing, I did party for a little bit. I mean, I started partying in high school, going crazy. And then from there, fucking went to the Marine Corps. And that was just a whole other beast, dude. Just fucking drinking 10 a.m. to 4 a.m. the next day. Just being a uncaged animal, but two, didn't understand that it was the stress as well as, like I was sharing the life events that I didn't process. And that was one of the things that drove me into a drinking problem and that. And what's funny is me and my wife, we were just dating and we were dating and then I took her to the Marine Corps ball and dude, I was just being a fucking asshole. Like I'll just say it straight out. I was being a fucking asshole because we were talking and then I was just kind of like telling her I didn't want her to make her want me more and just fucking with her. And I ruined this whole day just being an asshole. Is this your wife? Nah, it's not. Never get married. At that time, I didn't think marriage was a thing, but we had a miscarriage. So we broke up, had a miscarriage, and honestly, I took care of her after the miscarriage. Like I dropped what I was doing. She told me that night. I went over to her. Um, she was nannying for a family at Camp Pendleton, so I drove all the way to San Diego. I was in Miramar, so in the middle of San Diego, and then went to like Oceanside. Went to go see her, and I was taking care of her for 2 weeks. And I was like, man, I can do this husband thing. So 21, jumped into marriage. And it was quick the way we did it, and we needed to work through things, and it was crazy because it was like it was a blessing in disguise, because all that pain, that trauma, the emotions, and I know you went through a little bit as well, getting married young. It's like you realize that you knew yourself, but you learn a whole lot more of yourself and what you have to bring to the table. So, can we touch on that first, on what it was like, as you started maturing? Like you said, you were getting a job, showing up in life, taking care of the kids, providing for the family. What was it like for you when you started to develop that and understand that, hey, it's okay if I'm making these mistakes as long as I'm extracting the knowledge from them and then showing up as that best man for my family?
Yeah. Yeah, man. Look, yeah, I've had a lot of time to think about that journey of like why I made that decision. I think looking back at 20 when I got married, we're about to turn 21, and uh, I think I was looking for stability because I had lived a life of being so unstable. I mean, from the age of, I don't know, 8 or 9 to all the way to about 18, I've seen every corner of the Vegas Valley. Like, we moved probably, no joke, I don't know, 30 plus times. We would stay sometimes in like these little budget suites, weekly rental stuff, and then we'd go to some janky hotel, and then we would be there for a week or two, and at the same time, I'm just trying to like stay composed and not let anybody know what was going on. So I think as when I made that decision, it was like this search for stability, and I was like, well, I can kind of find stability in marriage, and so I did that. And yeah, I think you know I was a kid raising kids, in the sense of like I think I've always been a little bit more of an older soul in general, just ever since I was a kid. I think because I just had with everything I went through, I had to kind of grow up a little bit quicker. So um, but I also realized how immature I was, how I also had vices and things in my life in my 20s that were not conducive to like being the person that I now see I can be in my 40s. And so that journey it was man, it was a lot of good, a lot of ups and downs. but I also had to deal with. I had a lot of anger, had a lot of just unresolved trauma stuff, that I went through in my childhood. So I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know what I was dealing with, but I did know that I had to, I had to provide, and I was always working hard. I'd always have two jobs. I'd work at night at waiting tables, and then I got into real estate at 23. Started doing that. Uh, and before I got married, I came to faith, and I think that journey too of having mentors in my life helped me, in my mid 20s to kind of be able to be a family man and values and all these things that I didn't have before coming to faith in Jesus. So that was a big. I think that helped a lot, but obviously I was still dealing with things that I didn't I was unaware of, to be honest, man. Like you're just not aware that you're dealing with things that are, detrimental because you just have a lot there's a lack of awareness. I think a lot of people have a lack of awareness, to be honest. And I don't know if I think most people walk throughout life not realizing that they are making the poor decisions consistently, but it's become so normal that they think that that is okay.
I
And
love
I'll use
that,
an
dude.
example, like in my life, dude, um, just the way of like thinking ghetto. There's a ghetto mentality, right? That I was raised around, and I go back home to Vegas, visit family and stuff, and I still have family and people in my life that like never got out of that. They still have this ghetto mentality, okay? And they everything is a victim. There's a victim mentality aspect to it. There's, hey, there's bad luck. There's, oh man, it's always me. All this stuff, dude. And it's like it's just it's an oppressed or suppressed type of thinking that until you get out of an environment like that, you're never gonna know. And guess what, man? When I left, I left it in 2008 after the big crash of 2008, lost everything, went bankrupt. And we said, okay, what's something new? My ex-wife and I. So we moved to Washington, and I would come back because Washington, man, the life is slow, dude. It's a lot slower. It's not fast paced like Vegas. So I'd come back and I'd realize like there's something to be said about leaving, like leave when you come out of your environment that you've known your whole life, and then you leave, and then you come back, you have clarity on like, oh, this is why they are the way they are, man. Like you can
Yeah.
see it in the way that the culture, the way that the local kind of like just the essence of how people interact and engage. It's the culture of environments, man. And I know a lot of people talk about that. Like, hey, if you're stuck somewhere and it's because of where you live, it's real. That's a real thing. Like if you're small town and you think small town, but you have big ambitions, you have to get out of small town to go know what it is to think bigger and be part of an environment that actually supports that type of thinking. And I'm not saying that that's like good, or it can be good and bad, but if all you've known is this, you're missing out on so much more. You don't realize because you're so ingrained and myopic in the way that you live and think that you don't realize that like you're operating at such a lower level that if you were just to get out of that environment, you could elevate, you know.
Ooh,
So
I love
environments
that.
matter, man, culture, upbringing, all that. And so I think now that, obviously 20, raising kids 20 years, being a family man plus 20 years, I've realized that like environments matter, personal accountability, all those things, and really having an intentional way of living. You got to be intentional.
I love that, brother, and that's something that resonates with me deeply. And you mentioned that, being an older soul, as they call it. I was like that too. Like I said, I was parenting before we got on record. I was parenting my parents and telling them things, and that's just how it was as a kid. They were like see me as their friend. My dad's family's funny because they would always say your brother. They wouldn't consider him my dad. So I've always really seen him as a big brother. I don't see him as a dad. He's just not that guy for me. So it's been funny because they'll be like, your brother, I mean, your dad. And I'm just like, yeah, and that's what I was always treated like. Even when I was hanging out with him and his friends, I was little Bryce, I was his little brother essentially. And that's the way that they treated me. And that's the way that I operated. And it was just funny when I thought about it, and would run into those issues. Like first, you talk about the hood mindset, and I was laughing because a memory caught with me as I was working at a mortgage brokerage, and I was literally on the treadmill this morning thinking I was working at a mortgage brokerage, and I'm wearing my Dodger hat. I'm always wearing my Dodger hat, big Dodger fan. And back home, everybody wears red because that's like gang
Yeah,
color. So I'd wear
yeah.
blue, which you're not supposed to do that, you know.
That's north, dude. That's the north side,
Yeah,
bro.
North and then
That's what I know
Fresno's
about.
Bulldogs. So bro, I got punked way too many times, and like I was just a mama's boy. I didn't really know about that shit. I know like everybody's cousin, something like that. But um
Yeah.
I wasn't too deep into that shit, so I really didn't think until like my friends and ran into bigger issues, which we can get into if you want. But it was funny because for me, it was the small shit. Like I would go back home and I moved from Fresno when I was 10, so went to a better school. Went to a better school. They're like, oh, you're black, like oh, and I'm like I'm black and Mexican. They're like, well, you're more Mexican, but you don't know Spanish, so you're not Mexican. Oh, you don't hang out with the black people, don't have black family, you're not black. So I'd basically like go again to those people, and those people were like the same people. So I'm with ghetto people acting stupid, acting crazy, slang, fighting all crazy because like I was getting picked on by white kids. And then I go back home and my cousins and everybody would be like, oh, now you're talking white. Now you're saying this or that. And I didn't really understand that until recently when I started talking to people. And I'm like, oh, yeah, like, have you ever had anybody tell you that? And they're like, oh, yeah, when you go back home because you change that environment, you're educated. They assume education is for white people, and that's why they act a certain way. And I'm like, that's funny because like some of the hoodest dudes that I've met who didn't give a fuck about anything in life were white dudes just because they knew and they like, didn't give a fuck. They were just like, I can do it. So it was funny because that mindset carried through. And when I went to the Marine Corps, I started like really talking about the foundations. I was always in the gym, but my nutrition was trash. I drank like crazy. And one of my homies that I literally used to bum off his couch, he was like, you think you're better than me. You think this or that. And he had scholarships for fucking wrestling, but he kept switching schools. He kept going back home. He just wanted to smoke weed and sit on the couch. And that shit hurt me because his mom was the first person ever in my life. And she recently just died. And she was just be like, sit me down and be like, hey, Mijo, I see great things in you. Like, I see greater things than you can ever see. And I always had this bigger picture, like, I don't fit in here. Just the stupidity of shit. You know what I'm talking about, bro? Or like,
Mhm.
you
Yeah,
just
yeah.
hear the
Oh, yeah.
mindset, you hear what people say. Um, you ask them about what they want in life, and like, I just want a little more money, get some more weed. We can have food and we can just have a good time. You're like, bro, that's not it, dude. Like, that's not life. I understand this whole family and being Hispanic and oh, we're all about family, but like being about family isn't just fucking sitting here. And two, the fact of like you said, the accountability, bro, of like not holding each other accountable. When it becomes a problem, when you challenge your people to do better, like that was something that always happened to me. It's like no matter how good I would get, oh, you think you're this, oh, you think you're that. My mom, I'm highly competitive, so I'd start being better. And she's like, oh, you think you're the shit. You're just like your dad. You think you're better than everybody. And I'm like, well, if you're successful, you absolutely have to think you're better than somebody because you're working your ass off every single day. And I'm like, think about it though. Do you fucking think I'm going to come in second place? Or you think I'm going to come in first place? Ain't nobody say I'm going to come in second place. And if that's the mentality you have, you're going to be second place every time. And I was like, for me, the environment I grew up in, if you give fear, they're going to eat you up every single day. And that was something I started learning with people. Was the environment I grew up was tough as shit. My parents were tough as shit. Like I told you, there was no weakness. And it was just always providing results. So that was something for me as well that I really empathize with you on.
Mhm.
Was people don't understand that mindset, the struggle of really just staying within that. And literally this happened me and my wife the other day. We did these fairy photos that fucking brilliant marketing campaign. They get you to do these free complimentary photos, and then that shit's expensive as fuck. So you
Yeah,
start
yeah,
looking
yeah,
a couple
yeah.
thousand. And my wife's like, hey, should we do it? And then I start laughing, and she's like, wow, so you already have the decision made up in your head. You know what you want to do. That I go, I don't tell myself no because where we're from, it's always, oh, we're Mexican. We don't have money like that. That's not us. I
Yeah,
just don't tell myself no. If I'm in debt, I'm in debt and I'll work my ass off to get it. But I don't believe, as human beings, as men, we need to be telling ourselves that we're not worthy of having more in life. Like that's not the life I want to live, and
mhm.
that's not the life I'm attracting, and so forth. And like I told you, I had a failed business, and that was something that hurt my ego because I never fell at anything. Even when I, was like I said, we had the miscarriages. I'm fucking hustling all day, working 18 hours. I was still in the gym, even if I had ate my edibles and was on devices. Still in the gym, still do my college at nighttime, and there was no quit. But it was funny because, like, when I really sat back and thought about it, and it was just like I'm always trying to prove everyone wrong because that was the environment. The environment was, hey, it's created to break you, not make you, and it's systematically that way. And then two, it's the limiting belief systems that hold it back. So when you were saying that, like, man, that was powerful for me because
Yeah.
that was something, like, even now when I talk to other men, I'm realizing to where it's like, oh, you can see exactly where someone's at by the way that they're speaking and so forth.
Mhm.
And now we'll lead it into the faith segment. So, I
Mhm.
also think when you mentioned, talking about faith in the business, it's all about timing as well. I think it's the way you kind of set that up, like you said, the environment, the society, and I think it's very powerful how you've been doing that lately, talking about the faith tips, what you can do to align your team, and it really shows the foundation that you've built for your life, but why it's important. So, would you mind touching up on that factor, brother, of what it was like when you integrated the faith-based system within your businesses, your coaching programs, and then showed people, hey, you can be authentically you, you can continually do what is important to you and allows you to be the best you can be.
Mm. Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, a lot of similarities. Just when you were just talking there, man. Just to kind of cap off a little bit of what you were saying, I think that there's, man. I've had that chip on my shoulder for years and years and years of just, being the only. I remember just, when you're the only, brown kid in the neighborhood, dude, and and you gotta. I look back and it's just a funny little journey I've gone on and how I've allowed that to control me for so many years to the point where, like, I think it's good to have a chip on your shoulder. I think it can also be unhealthy because you realize, like, man, the motivation for why you want to accomplish something, I think is skewed. And I didn't know that. I thought that was the one it did help me succeed. But there comes a point where you kind of cap. And when you cap, you realize, like, something more. Yeah, I mean, like, so this leads, like, to the motivation for, my faith and, like, why I'm trying to really kind of dial that in the sense of sharing it more often, integrating it into my faith, because the chip on the shoulder is not the motivation. The motivation should be to glorify our creator, right? We all have our gifts, we all have our talents, we all have our experiences. And I think when you realize that at the end of the day, man, everything, literally everything is used. Nothing will be left unused in life. Your experiences, my experience, like, and once we believe that, you realize, like, oh, all the good, the bad, it composes, it literally is the gem. And now how is this gem, you, me, people, how are we going to leverage this to be of value to others? How can I enrich somebody else's life with the journey I've gone through? And when I look back and I'm like, well, at the end of the day, man, there is no, I think it's very egotistical to think that we are so smart that we can, like, we're so smart, we're so talented that we are the reason why we are where we're at, when we don't realize, like, there's so many turning of events that had to have happened for you to get to where you're at today, no matter where it's at. And some people take credit for things that they had zero control over. You know what I mean? So there is this call to action. We have to take action and own our faith and own our journey. But I'm not mistaken, nor am I confused to realize that God at the end of the day is clearing the path for me. And so if I don't magnify God in that journey, I'm doing myself a disservice. I'm doing others a disservice. And ultimately, I'm not going to reach a promised land. I'm going to be always like bare. I'll see it. I'll never attain it. And I believe God wants us to walk into the promised lands that He has for us, ultimately to glorify Him, so that others can be like, "Oh, you did it because of God." Yeah. And so it points back to Him. Um, I like to, what was it? Like John the Baptist was like, I must decrease so you can increase. We're in a society where we're all trying to increase and we decrease God. You know what I mean? And so that lately has been really on my heart, man. Like if if I realize the power, dude, the source of life, if I can increase him and I decrease, I win. I'm gonna win. No matter what. No matter what happens, I'm winning. And so that's been something that like I feel is missing in a lot of content. It's missing in a lot of just the way people are building their brands. And it's not like obviously what comes with it will come with it. But back in 2013, where this became more real for me was at the age of 32, I had a heart attack. And so when you realize that at any given moment, your life can be snuffed out, you don't have control as much as you think you do. Um, it starts to become more real. Like, okay, Lord, I gotta get right because if I'm not right, like, hey, I don't have control. We're all here for a moment in time. Obviously, we want to do our best. We want to lead well. Those are all good things, man. Everything that we're all talking about, most people, what they talk about online from a personal brand or whatever it is, they're coaching, it's good, man. There's nothing, there's not, those are all good things. The challenge is that when you elevate that good thing to be the superior thing, where it's like, no, it's my way, it's me, it's all me, it's me, me, me. And you're like, oh, like at some point, the burden of me becomes really heavy too. And not a lot of people talk about that either because all we see is the highlights of our content. People see that. They don't see the back end of the burden, right, of life. So, and like you, man, you're mentioning, your miscarriages and all that. Think about it, man. Like you're sharing your story. We went through that too. Our last kid, our last son, he's only here because of the miscarriage. And so we always like to say as a family, like, hey, Penelope, we lost her, and she gave him the green light to come in. You know what I mean? Like obviously God is like, hey, we had other plans we didn't realize. And so there's something special about that. So even in that loss, there's this beauty that came out of this, which we have now our son, and so all those things, I don't control that. Yeah, I mean, like I'm a fool to think that I have all this control. I'd be foolish. And I think a lot of people live in a foolish way they really do believe, dude, that like they're that guy.
You
And
know what?
when they realize that they're really not that guy,
I
when
love that.
like, you got health, when your health starts to diminish, you're not that guy no more. When you have, the marriage go, you're not that guy anymore. When your businesses fall apart, you're not that guy anymore. Like you're not that guy. All we can do is say, Lord, what do you have for me? Let me be the best I can be. Empower me and let me glorify you. And guess what? Then you can be the guy that rides with the true guy. You're riding with the one and only. And when you ride with him, you literally can't lose. So that's the way yeah, I've been in this faith journey 20 years. It's been up and down. It's not been perfect. I'm not perfect. I have a lot of faults and failures. But man, when I know how good he's been to me over the years, there's no other way. I can't. I'd be lying, man, if I say it's all me. It's this. It's just not. So that's why now I'm like, all right, Lord, I've been wrestling with that for a while. For whatever reason, I don't know. Maybe there was some opinion, fear of a man. We all think we're tough. And, I don't fear nothing. I'm man. You get some of these guys start talking. They don't want to talk about what they really believe in because of what people's opinions. So they do fear. They fear man's opinion. You know what I mean? And so when you kind of remove that, you realize like, okay, I'm going to glorify and I'm going to let him sort it out. And so that's been this new kind of chapter I'm walking into when it comes to my content.
Amazing, brother. And something that's important to me as well, is going through that. And I got the big ego as well, to where when I was with the other guys, that's what it was flexing the egos all the time and saying what you are. And there was a period of time where I was like, I don't believe in God and whatever. So December 31st, 2022, my wife was going to leave me. I felt like a piece of shit because I repeated the generational trauma, passed on that pain. And one day I'm going to have that conversation with my kids. So in my head, it kept being, you're a fuck up. You're a fuck up. You're a piece of shit. Your son's not going to respect you. How could you be the man that your son's not going to love? And that shit hurt me, bro. Like it broke me down. And I literally prayed to God. I got on my knees. I was like, hey, you can just kill me now. Let me go see my friends. Let me go have some fun. And I was like, that's it, you know. So it was funny because I within that it was raining. So New Year's, walked right to the gym in the morning. It didn't open up till 6 a.m. I was up at 2. So at 4, I was trying to be at that gym. Walked back home, and then this year really hit me again. Was I was able to work out, on New Year's, and I was just so grateful for being in the gym, fucking at 2 in the morning on New Year's because I was like, yeah, man, I get to do this, and it was a different feeling. But what was crazy is about when I was on that knees, begging God for shit to change. One of my friends who was praying, he's like, "Hey, something reached over to me and told me to reach out to you." And I was like, dude, I was asking God for a sign that he was real. So that is weird that you would, and I've never had a conversation with him on God, Jesus, my family. I just didn't talk to him. I did business with him. He was a client. I closed him. He paid me thousands of dollars. Now he's asking about my relationship with God and just showing up. So it was crazy there. And the cool part was, as I started like really leaning into the everything happens to you, or excuse me, for you, not to you. And that's what it was for me. It was like all this fucked up shit, all this pain. Like I can channel it and help that man. And that's why I created my brand behind that, on that man that recalibrates his mindset, just like a car. Is you're gonna have to go back to that point blank. You're gonna have to get rid of those limiting beliefs. You're gonna have to get real with what's important to you, how you show up every day, and that's one of the things you talk about as well. It's the foundation you embody, how you show up every day, regardless of staying consistent, whatever. So it was the I do affirmations. I don't like saying the I get to because some people like me had a problem with it because you get too caught up in the gratitude. And what I mean by that is you don't take action, So that's why I started saying I do daily workouts. I do show up as my family, show up for my family as my best self. I do not bitch anymore. I do produce results. I don't care what happens. I will stick to my program every day. And it was funny because like life started to happen, and now aligning to bigger stages and bigger things. And it's funny because like all that happened because I got clear with God, and I was just like, hey, all right, I get the mission of what it is. I understand why 6 of my friends died. My grandfather and my friend's mom, like I said, died, and why I had the complex of not wanting to be close with anybody because it's fucking tough. As you went through before, with your mom, brother, like it's tough to see the people you love not be here and then to just suppress that pain. So that was something that was important to me, especially when you're talking about the faith. It's something people don't understand, and then when you do understand, you're like, oh my gosh, like this is amazing, but it's like, hey, it's like that for a reason, because you got to have that wake up call, and if you're a man, until you realize that that pain hurts bad enough, then you're going to change. And that's one thing I love about you, brother, is like you're an amazing husband, amazing father. And I don't like hyping people up. It's just something I don't believe in. So when I say things, I've watched you for a while, dude, and you continually show up. So I want to tap on that. What is it like now when you're fully present as the best husband, the best father you can be, and you're really just immersing it within that moment?
Yeah. Thank you, man. I appreciate that, bro. It means a lot, dude. Because there's times where I think I want to encourage every man out there that is trying to make an impact. Like, you don't know who's watching. And for some of us, we get caught up in the metrics and we get caught up in the numbers and we're like, oh man. But the truth is, like, everything's going to play itself out the way it needs to play itself out if you keep showing up. And don't quit. If you know your intentions are right, if you know your heart's right, and you're putting things out there to really be of value to the world, like you got to keep moving. You got to keep moving forward, and you can't be focused on all the stuff that the shiny objects, the people that are, wow, they have, a million, they have 500,000. Like you get you caught up into that. It's self defeating, and then you realize, like, man, I'm not. And those, I believe, those are like little tests that we have to, and sometimes the test is long. It's like, how much endurance do you really have? to really carry this mission out. And some people, there's challenges when they get to the top that you don't know about. Yeah, I mean, like everybody's got the challenge. It's just all different, right? And so when it comes to like, being present and leading with the gratitude. But I love what you said, man. And I think I'm 100% agreement. I think you can get caught up in a lot of I don't know, the woo woo type of, gratitude, affirmations, and people just think like, oh, I'm gonna manifest this stuff and it's just gonna happen. It's silly talk. I just it's silly, and when I hear a lot of that stuff, I'm like, it's also deceiving because a lot of people that really need hope, that really need true guidance and they need the truth. They're being fed this stuff that looks like the truth, but it's a lie, dude. You know what I mean? And I think that's where a lot of people get caught up in. It's like, so how to mitigate that for me is I want to, I wake up, man, and I just I want to be, I want to be a representative of the truth. You know what I mean? And so if I can be that, then I can aim to be present because I know in being present, I can have the truth can have more impact. The times I'm not present, I pay for it. You know what I mean? Like I pay for it with, uh, you know, not my conscience is not clear. It's not clean. I know because I know what to do. I'm not ignorant no more. And that's where, ignorance is bliss. I 100% believe that, dude. There's days I want to be ignorant, bro. There's days I'm like, I wish I knew nothing. I wish I was just a half a dummy and I just live life like that, dude. Because we all know people like that, and you're like, they just live, and
That's my
you're like, you don't
mom.
see it, and they're like, they just don't. And but there's something also. I'm not gonna say beautiful because it's not beautiful, but there's something at peace with that too. That like, you know what? Hey, so I get that. I don't want obviously I don't want that,
I
but
mean,
I do believe.
it's perfect, like you're saying, and you're hitting on the Wes Watson topic when he's saying when basically the Holy Spirit, when he's saying the voice of God is within you. When you hear within you on what it is, and then you say fuck it, you're saying fuck God. And it's funny because people do that, but it does take a piece of calmness to just be like, I don't give a fuck, and just go about your business, dude. Like
Yeah,
for me, I know
yeah,
that eats at me, eats at me, eats at me, and
yeah,
then it just thrives. So I don't
yeah.
act on that anymore. And I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just found that
No,
funny
no,
that you
no.
were saying that because it's literally true, bro. It's like you know what you're doing wrong, but we keep doing it, and that's the problem.
Yeah, yeah. You get to a point where like you almost silence the voice of truth. You silence it, and you sear your conscience, dude. And when you sear it to the point where like it's like okay, have your way. What happens is I think a lot of times people that are in that track, they um they don't realize that it's just a matter of time that the pain is going to be felt. It's just a matter of time. It's not might not be right now. Right now everything's good. Oh, it's everything, and then boom, the pain's felt because the preparation and the silencing of truth and the silencing of um, you know, progress. Because I believe we're all created to progress. We're not created to like be stagnant. We have to progress. So if you get to that comfort level, because that's where you end up is comfortable, you stagnate your growth, and that's not in line with the way we were created. We were created to continue to progress. And so if you don't understand that, you're ignorant to that. You eventually pay for it in a way that yeah, you learn. And some people learn and they make change or it's too late and but so for me, man, like just as a father, I'm as a husband, bro, I am far from perfect. I um I own it. I do my best. There's days where like I'm hitting all cylinders. There's days that I get selfish, where I'm just like, I get selfish with just the way I want things and how I want to be and I know in those moments I'm then not serving my family and my marriage the best way, but I am grateful that I don't stay there long. And that I know that So it's always fighting that selfishness that's in all of us. Like you got to fight that with everything you have, and that's where I rely on really on God, man, to help me in that journey. Because the truth is, man, like that's how broken we really all are. No matter what, dude, I'm telling you, man, no matter what the guy at the top, that guy, whoever those guys are at the top that like people look up to and they're like, well, that guy has it all. But dude, the end of the day, everybody goes to bed at night. Every man goes to bed at night and they know in their heart where they're at, dude. They get up the next morning and tell something and tell something that's not congruent with that. But the truth is, every man deals with it. And it's this selfish because we're all broken, bro. We are, man. And like, so the only way to get out of this brokenness is really tapping into the source of life. That's it. Because when you tap in, dude, you're not dependent on your own power anymore. You're dependent on the source's power to get you through to be like, okay, I know I'm selfish right now. Let me not be this man and be better because the source of life is not selfish and then by any means. So if we're reflecting that and we're image bearers of that person, of God, then we, in essence, we know that when we understand and embody that, we are reflecting an attribute of what God is to others. So then, therefore, we can snap out and be like, nope, let me not be a selfish husband and let me go wash the dishes when I don't want to do it. Simple as that. You know what I mean? Or I'm tired. Let me get up and let me go play with the kids, even though I don't want to. Right. You know, so I think it's a lot of that, man. I think it's just you got to know that we're all selfish, man. But if you don't believe that and you don't understand why that is, you'll struggle with it more and more and more. And you don't realize like what's the root of this, the root. And it's really, dude, it's the root of all man. It just is, man. And anybody that's gonna be honest with themselves and be like, there's no man on this earth that's gonna be like, oh, I'm perfect. There's no you ain't perfect, dude. You got your selfishness and you break. Everybody
Yeah, it's
breaks
not
at some
possible.
point. You break,
Yep.
you know.
Man, you
So
made me emotional with what you were saying, brother. I'm over here tearing up a little bit. But first, just powerful, brother. When we're talking about the manifestation, 100% believe what you were saying, but I also think too, it's the power in making it happen, like the foundational principles, these showing up as who you are, the meditating and praying every day, the, showing up for the kids. And the reason why I got started getting emotional was I was thinking about that. Last night I had a conversation with my wife. She had 3 brain surgeries. So she had a craniotomy. They found some stuff back there and she almost died, dude. And fuck, dude, one of the nights, like, I was gonna break. Like, I wanted to just go eat McDonald's and, it was fucking rough just seeing her in that state, and family's blowing up my phone, and I'm like, dude, just fuck off, leave me alone for right now. Let me
mhm.
try to gather myself. So did 450 burpees outside the hospital and gathered myself before I drove back an hour and a half to come home. And given it's like 11:30 at night, I didn't get home till 1 in the morning. Missing on the gym because wasn't able to go during that time because my father-in-law was here and it was all crazy. So still burpees, kettlebells, and trying to figure out what I can do, which is one thing I love that you do it is kettlebells and you show that. Um, but it was crazy for me because last night having a conversation with my wife and she was saying about her TBI and sometimes like she just subconsciously snaps or says shit and I want to explode. And I'm like, you don't understand how hard it is. And then I really just sat back and I was like, dude, I love my wife. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. Like, I made the commitment for her. She's what I
Mhm.
want in life. And that's why I changed. And that's why I did better. So, like, all these things don't matter. I don't need to lose my temper. I don't need to say that. And that's why I told her, it's like, sometimes, yeah, I do want to say some shit. Old me would have just left. It's difficult. I had to restart my business 3 times. I took care of the son and the daughter while I'm running the businesses. I'm fucking on calls all the time. Kids are in the background. And you know what? I just tell people, like, if you can't respect that, you can fuck off. And since I come with that sincerity and I come aggressive, they're just like, oh, yeah, I like that about you. You're serious. And I'm like, because before, I interviewed John Lee Dumas. He called me out because my daughter was screaming in the background. And after that, I was like, I'm never going to feel that way again from anybody because I looked up to that guy, and I'm not saying he's a bad dude. It was something that I didn't have the opportunity because we were rushing to tell him that my daughter was in the background. And then
Yeah.
after, it was just kind of awkward after he said that. So it was something for me where like I let everybody know because I felt that. And I really showed up there and I told her that like it does get a lot sometimes, getting up at 2, 3 a.m. in the morning, getting a workout in, getting work until the kids get up. Before my son was getting up at 7:30. Now I'm getting him back, going back to sleep till 9:30 so I can get more work done, being present, washing the dishes every day, cleaning the house, or this shit stacks up. Mom cleans, so mom cooks, so I clean. uh, it gets overwhelming. And the thing is like you got to go back to that why. You got to go back to the why do I do so much? Why do I try so hard? I literally started doing burpees every night just to throw more into it. And everybody's like, "Oh, you can do burpees early in the day," and I'm like, "No," because I know I can push myself more when I don't want to do it. And
Mhm.
literally, I didn't believe that until the end of last year. I did a 10-day fast, and it was funny because that was something I learned is like all the shit we think that's important doesn't fucking matter. And the even better part was like my wife after it thanked me and was like, "Hey, I didn't think you were gonna do it because food is your pleasure. Um, Normally you wouldn't have done something
It
like
is
this."
mine
So
too,
like,
man.
yeah,
It is mine too, bro. That's
honestly,
my kryptonite, man. Dude, I can, bro. Yeah, it's ridiculous, dude.
yeah.
That's where I have to practice self control, man. Because I'll take down anything, dude. Like I will overindulge, dude. I'm just that person, man. I don't know. Yeah.
That was me, brother, and, it was funny because like, even the fast like, I wanna do another one. I was gonna do a 21 day, but, I'm trying to get in the best shape of my life, get bigger because I lost my size, so that was the hard thing too was, not eating and then coming back and trying to lift hard. It just doesn't happen that way. You can't go from not eating to 100 grams of carbs again and then think it's gonna work out. It just doesn't, So now I
Yeah.
look bigger,
Yeah.
more cut at 200 grams of carbs that I'm all happy, like, I could eat fucking rice every meal, and, it's funny and like that's something for me. It helped me grow, be better, and that was the thing. My wife was saying that, and she made pozole on Christmas, and like I was eating it in front of me, and then I just like went back to the why, and I was just like, I'm doing this to be a better husband, father, because old me wouldn't have done it. Old me would have been like, nah, I don't need to. I'm good. I show up every single day, and it was funny
Mhm.
because like every time God tells you there's more, like there's more you can do. Oh, you think you're tired? You think you're
Yeah.
done?
Yeah.
You think your
Yeah.
marriage is in shambles? There's more. There's more. There's more. And it was funny because everything that you're saying, brother, like resonated with me. And it's always that key. It's like even when the gas tank's empty, there's more. Christmas time, I'm starving. I was already like at 4 days fasted from there. I was kind of getting frustrated because I was seeing people like, I can't fast, this or that, the negative beliefs. So I went on a 5 mile walk while starving, not drinking any water. I really didn't drink water for like 3 of those days just to fucking do it and to say it did it. So
Yeah.
people were asking me,
Yeah.
how much water are you drinking a day? I'm like, honestly, I drink like 2, 3 cups, probably like an 8 ounce cup. Yeah, I really didn't drink much water. They're like, how? And I'm like, oh, I just stopped wanting to do it. I'll drink my electrolytes, move on about my business. But it was something for me that like I'm glad I did it because it challenged me to be better, challenged me. Now I know what I can do. But two, I was like, the last thing I'm going to do is pass my limiting beliefs on to my kids or just explain that to them. And from the environment I grew up around was drinking all the time, doing dumb shit, telling your kids to do dumb shit, listening to bad music with the kids. I'm not saying I'm not going to listen to bad music either. I love Too Short, but I'm not going to be condoning the activities, like it was condoned for me and thinking it's okay. And that's the fact is like, I thought about that, and like I said, when my wife was going to leave me, I visualized my son and what he's going to look up to. And I was like, that's not the characteristics I embody. So I changed what I do every single day. And that's what I love about you, brother, is you show up there every single day. I'll wrap it up here with the last question, brother. What would you say to the previous version of yourself? We don't know where to start. We just want to align ourselves with our definition of success.
Man, that's good. Thank you, by the way, for sharing that, dude. And I just want to say one thing, man. Bro, anybody that says anything about your kids while you're on a show that you are running, I don't know. I don't even know where people get the right to like the ego to have that. Imagine, dude. I'm sitting here imagining myself like, hey, bro, like, what are you doing? Like having your kids, like, man, being father and a man, like, I just don't get that. But
Yeah, he's a
um,
father too. So I wanted to flip and but I didn't. Luckily. Normally
no,
I
no,
would
you like
flip.
hella composure, and that's the right thing to do. And I commend you for that. I just don't understand the 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 audacity, man, of another man telling another man and his family, not knowing literally what you just shared with your wife and the kids and the like, it doesn't matter, dude. Guess what, man? Like, none of this is, guess what, dude? None of this is going to freaking matter. This show we're doing is going to, people are going to hear it. And guess what? 20 years from now, nobody's going to give a damn, dude, about this, your and I's conversation, the reality, right? So, what would it matter if I'm sitting here and I'm a big shot and I'm telling you, hey, what are you doing with your kids? As if this is going to freaking matter, bro, at the end of the day. It ain't going to matter. That pisses me off, dude. So anyway, as just as a father and as a man, like it just I don't understand. But um, so what would I tell my younger self? I would say this, dude. You got to align yourself with the challenge, bro. And you and I talked about this, dude. I know what it is. I've been in. I've had, I don't know. I've had close calls. I've been around a lot of violence. I've been around a lot of um, just ghetto mentality. I've been around that culture. I grew up in that culture. Okay. So I understand it. And the challenge is my younger self would have been like, hey, um, one, you must surround yourself with people that are elevating or elevated beyond where you're at. You have to. That's the only way. In the sense why it's the only way is because once people have gotten out of their cave, their whatever, they are now able to operate the way that they were created to operate. Well, when you're in this bubble and you don't even know you're in the bubble, but you see people, and because I was that guy too, man, I resonate a little bit with your dad, and I'll just admit this. Like I know, or I think it was your dad or somebody else you're talking about, like, or your mom, or oh, you change and you think you're better than everybody else. I used to, when I would look at my friends that were elevating, I would get insecure. And my insecurities came out and be like, "Oh, I gotta, they're just what they think. They're just better than me now. You don't hang out with us anymore." All you dude, dude, I did that, and I didn't realize, like, I'm over here pretty much casting this shadow and this bad, energy and thoughts on this person that's literally trying to get out of a bubble, dude, that I'm in. Like, how insane is that? But because I'm in the bubble and I don't understand that. So my younger self, I'd be like, hey, you got to surround yourself with people that are moving towards their higher calling and get as close as possible and learn what you can and put your ego aside and your pride. Because as men, pride and ego is always the challenge, bro. It's always the challenge. It's funny. So I run, I have Men of Consequence. This is my brand. I do the masterminds, and I do a mastermind where we have a good group of guys, international, but we all chop it up on business, family, life, all this stuff. Okay. And I know I get it. I get the man on the other side as I'm trying to say, hey, you should come join us. I get it. Well, why would I join that group? Why? Because I know, dude, I used to be that guy. Yeah, I mean, like, oh, well, I got my own group, you know, or it's funny because they keep watching, but they won't. You'll be like, hey, come join us, brother. Like, there's room for you, but they don't because there's some pride or there's some like you have to admit that like, oh, I gotta, oh, that's because there's not a call to hell. They're like we're not calling you out, we're calling you up. It's different. Yeah, I mean, to be a man of consequence is like calling you up, not out. And so I do think a lot of men struggle because they think that by joining a tribe, brother, whatever it is, like they're conceding something, and you're not. You're just getting part of a group of other men that are like highly successful, and some are starting out, and they're all here to elevate each other. So in my younger self, be like join those type of groups. I'm not saying it's this way. It could be any of the ones that are like solid groups of men that are like trying to elevate each other. Be part of that because the faster you get plugged into those type of communities, dude, the faster you start accelerating your path. And obviously, I would say, the faith is number one. Like, obviously, you got to be connected to God. I can't leave that out. But, my younger self to success, it's like you got to be around successful people, man. And I wish I would have, man, I missed a lot of years. I just say that. Missed a lot of years, not understanding how important that was until I started investing into myself, investing into other men, investing in, I've been part of many groups. I've been like, that's what helped me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that would be where I'd leave that.
That's awesome, brother. And that was me. I had an opportunity, so I joined the Dad Edge group because I met Larry Hagner and met him in person, and great fucking dude. And that was I was like, I'm gonna be in this group, and I wanted to leave the group. And it's funny, it's like I got signs from other men where it's like, bro, you've helped me on what you do. Oh, you've done this, and I created relationships, or I gave advice, and they were like, man, that really helped me. And it was funny because I thought I didn't have value to offer. I didn't think that I wanted to be there anymore. I want to do my own group. I want to do whatever. And two, being in other groups where I just kept jumping out of to jump out of, and like, oh, you don't align to me anymore. I'm going to this group. And it's funny because it's like if you do that, that tells more about you than it actually is the group because you're saying what it is, and that's what I was casting off. So I appreciate you for coming on, brother. You've been an amazing guest. Where can people find you, man, if they want to keep up with you?
Yeah, man. Instagram, Alex Montros, all the way, Alex, Montros. My name is hyphenated, but the tag, I mean, the handle is all the way through. I do most of my content on Instagram, and then also, TikTok, the same, Alex Montrose, and those two channels are where you'll find me at, and then from there, I can lead you through all sorts of different paths and stuff. I'm doing all sorts of crazy stuff nowadays, man. So, yeah, that's a good starting point.
Amen. Well, I'll have it there. Thank you for coming on, brother. I know definitely, like I said, we'll get a second one in, whether if it's on Zoom, StreamYard, or in person. So thank you again, brother. It was an immense honor.
Yeah. Thank you, man.